Hello and welcome to the Redmen TV. It's daily news time, and daily news with a little bit different. So I've got with me today Jeff Goulding, the author of this fantastic book on Liverpool Football Club. It's Red Odyssey. It's a collection of 125 stories celebrating Liverpool's 125 years. We'll get to that later. Jeff's going to join me for the news show. First story, obviously it's in the thumbnail title, it's Jorginho, but I wanted to talk about something else first. I wanted to talk about Liverpool expanding Anfield once again. The news broke, and this is Anfield, actually a place that you've written for.
Yep.
Earlier on, probably a month and a half ago now, but it's come out in the Daily Mail this morning that Liverpool is set to expand Anfield again as club targets 60,000 seats and big sponsor to name the new stand. Now, Jeff, you know, you've read this article, you know about it. What are the key sort of points that we can garner?
Well, I think what's new about this is the fact that the mention of a sponsor and a naming rights partner for the new stand, which is interesting because I think a lot of us expected that they'd come up with a naming rights partner for the main stand, and that hasn't materialised. But apparently that's definitely on the cards for this new expansion. The idea of a third tier, making it as high as the main stand, which is interesting. From a personal point of view, a little bit of sadness around the fact that the Kop is now going to be completely dwarfed by the rest of the ground. But fantastic news from a from a revenue point of view, obviously. And, you know, a club with so many people on the waiting list for tickets, you know, great news. And the final point, which I think is interesting, is the mention of the potential for an extra 8,000 seats rather than 6,000 seats, which would make us the second largest stadium in the country.
So you're looking at a total capacity it could extend to is 62,000 for Anfield now. And I mean, what do you feel personally about the sponsorship rights for the stand?
Yeah, I mean, you'd rather call it the Bill Shankly stand or the Bob Paisley stand, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, I think unfortunately, you know, the game has moved on a lot. The need for us to compete with the likes of United and Chelsea and City means that it's probably an inevitability and a necessary evil, really. And as long as we pick the right partner.
And it could go some way to sort of make up the ground of match day revenues as well, couldn't it? I think, you know, I don't know what the bandied figure is, but I know the main stand's brought in around about an extra 12 million in revenue so far over the course of a season. So you can understand that that's quite a significant jump. Now, there wouldn't have been corporate boxes in the Anfield Road end, I don't believe, or certainly not as many corporate boxes and stuff, so you're not going to get quite the jump in revenues, but those extra 2,000 seats could make a massive difference.
Absolutely.
Do you think there's a reason, Jeff, that Liverpool haven't announced anything around the Kop yet? Do you think maybe they're future-proofing it slightly?
I'm not sure. I mean, I would love to have seen us be ambitious and go for a much bigger Kop. I think logistically it's probably extremely challenging to expand the Kop. You've obviously got Walton Breck Road and you've got businesses on the other side of the road as well. But with the council looking at the area in detail and looking at sort of improving the area, it surprises me that wasn't put on the table as a potential. That they could have rerouted the road potentially and made the Kop even bigger.
So I've got a feeling that they're going to wait to see what happens with safe standing.
Okay.
I think, you know, there's all rules about the type of incline that you've got with those safe standing stands and stuff. So I wonder whether we're going to see in a few years' time, maybe if safe standing does come into the UK, then I wonder whether Liverpool might then make a move on that. Obviously, they've got the Kirby redevelopment to do first and foremost before we even get into this Anfield Road expansion.
Substantial investment.
Massive. Okay, well, we're going to get into some transfer news now. Liverpool confident of beating Manchester United and Arsenal to Jorginho transfer as Emre Can heads for Anfield exit, according to the Daily Mirror. He'll be playing actually in England. He's playing in Manchester. I think he's playing at Wembley with the Italian national side. Liverpool lining up Italy international Jorginho as replacement for Emre Can. Brazilian-born stars in the Italy squad for friendlies, as I've just mentioned. Jorginho holds a dual passport. He's now won 3 Azuri caps. If it comes down to a straight fight between the trio for his services, Liverpool would be favourites, and that's to do with the playing style and Jurgen Klopp and how well Brazilians have actually developed at Anfield over the last few years. You think Phil Coutinho, you think Roberto Firmino as well. So maybe Jorginho could be one of those Brazilians. I think, let me know in the comments section what you think about that, how you feel about Jorginho. Personally, you know, I see him as a very much a deep-lying playmaker, a massive upgrade on probably Jordan Henderson. I'd like to see him in that Liverpool midfield with maybe Naby Keita or someone else next season. It's going to be a really interesting one, and hopefully this is a guy that Liverpool are linked with. I really like Ndidi at Leicester as well, although I think they're completely different players, and there's a potential for the two of them to play in the same midfield. That's what I'd like to see, a destroyer come in and the real sort of good playmaker as well. But leave me your thoughts on that. Jeff, we've had some injury news as well. Emre Can lasted 15 minutes of the first training session with Germany. It's the back injury again that's flared up. Hopefully, it's not too major.
And it's the curse of international football, isn't it? You know, it's never been a huge fan of Liverpool players going off and playing for the national team. I think I dread it. I dread the international breaks. You just worry, don't you, about who's going to come back with an injury. Hopefully it won't be that serious. But, I actually think he's been, an outstanding player for us in recent times, and it's going to be a big blow if he's not playing. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, we'll move it on then. Another one that's just broken. The Daily Mirror actually reporting it. I've got this on the Liverpool Echo website. Liverpool named as unlikely club monitoring Jack Wilshere contract situation at Arsenal. How does this one make you feel?
Really ambivalent about this one, to be honest with you. A little bit surprised. Wouldn't have thought he'd be a player we'd be in for our midfield. But I've got to be honest, I kind of felt a little bit like that about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I don't know the source of this particular story or how reliable or genuine it is, but it would be a surprise to me if that was the player we were going for. Maybe it's just, names on a list and he's not at the top of the list, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, listen, I think he's a good footballer. I think everybody knows that. But funnily enough, I mentioned on a show yesterday, I listened to a lot of NFL podcasts and, excuse me, Peter King from Sports Illustrated MMQB was talking to about a general manager for one of the NFL teams, and this resonated with me quite a lot. He said, broke stays broke. And Jack Wilshere's been broken for most of his career.
Absolutely.
In the Liverpool squad now, Adam Lallana's had his injury issues and has missed a lot of football. Jordan Henderson has his injury issues and misses a lot of football. Even Dejan Lovren misses a lot of football. So Jack Wilshere, for me, although I like him, I think he's a talented footballer.
I just think about when he came on the scene. He was the next big thing. He went to a club like Arsenal where Wenger had that reputation for developing young talent, and he's just not done it, has he? He's just had lots of problems with injuries, as you say, and he's just not kicked on.
Okay. And we mentioned, obviously, at the top of the show, Red Odyssey. Now, I've read this book cover to cover. It is absolutely fantastic. We've got one copy from the publisher to give away, and I've got a copy myself, and no one's having that one. Jeff, tell us about one of the stories from maybe recent times.
I think the one that's probably sort of interest now with the City game coming up is that epic tie against Borussia Dortmund at Anfield. And I think that was one moment in recent history where, as someone who's been going to games since the 70s, the mid-70s, and saw the standing cop, stood on the standing cop, that was a game when we rolled back the years that night. The atmosphere was incredible, but it wasn't just inside the ground. The atmosphere was special. It was around the ground, outside. So, I describe in the book, taking a bit of a journey around the stadium before kick-off and seeing the Dortmund fans and the Liverpool fans mingling together, hearing the noise in the street from the stadium, and just the general feel of Anfield on a European night with all the foreign accents and Irish accents and Scouse accents and this is European football, this is Anfield, and it was just a remarkable night. And on that night, I thought, will we ever be back? It was going to be a tough tie, but would we get back next season? And lo and behold, here we are at the top table once again and facing City.
Yeah, and another coach
expecting
welcome
another big night. Yeah,
I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely incredible. Tell us about, obviously, just quickly, what's your favourite story from the book then, Jeff? This is 125 stories documenting Liverpool from 1892 all the way up to now, and I must admit there was a depth of knowledge that I gained from the book that I've not known about Liverpool Football Club. Some of the early stuff, I mean, Liverpool played in blue. In the first derby, Liverpool played in blue and Everton played in red.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these stories are absolutely incredible, and some of the little tidbits of information you find out about Bill Shankly or Bob Paisley or Rafa Benitez or anything like that. There's some incredible stories in there, but what's your absolute favourite?
I've got to say the story of the 1914 FA Cup final, not for the final itself, which we obviously lost, and an ex-Everton player scored the winning goal in that one to break our hearts, which is gut-wrenching, isn't it? But really, it's what makes that story special for me is the sort of the insight you get into Liverpool fans in 1914, and remarkably no different than we are today in terms of the passion and the desire to see the Reds play. You know, tales of thousands of them crammed onto platforms at Lime Street Station, crammed into coaches, all the coach windows decked out in red, you know, posters from the Echo in the coach windows, and the songs that they sing. So unearthed a song that I'd certainly never seen in print before, that they sang on the coach going down to Crystal Palace. So that for me kind of tells me that, you know, every time we go the game, we're kind of standing on the shoulders of those great fans from all those years ago. And we are special, we're not making it up, you know, we do have this reputation for being passionate, and it was recognised back more than 100 years ago. Yeah,
mental, isn't it? And how long have Everton been bitter for then, Jeff?
Well, it turns out Everton have been bitter for 125 years. The first Liverpool-Everton game took place at Bootle Stadium in 1893 in the Liverpool Senior Cup final. And because Everton felt that Liverpool won 1-0, but in the last few minutes of the game, Everton claimed there was a handball in the penalty area. They should have got a penalty. They accused the referee of being incompetent and lodged an official protest, which meant that Liverpool couldn't be presented with the trophy on the pitch. I had to wait till the next day. But what's really fascinating about this for me is that the trophy was then put on display in a pawn shop in the Paddington area of Liverpool, so fans could go and see the trophy. And strangely, the shop got broken into and the trophy got stolen, which cost the Reds, or the Blues, 130 quid to replace. And I've obviously no idea who might have stolen the trophy.
No idea whatsoever, but we know Everton have been bitter for at least that long. Absolutely incredible. Do you know the story that I forgot when we were recording before?
Okay.
It was Liverpool winning the league and the cup on the same day.
Oh, yeah, so that's kind of...
Get on this.
1947, so post-war, the first league season after the war, official league after the war, and Liverpool took the league by storm that year, partly because the manager then, George Kay, took them to America on a pre-season tour because he knew they were malnourished, and he kind of had them down and out on steaks and malts in America.
Malnourished.
And so we kind of were going into our we played our last game and we were top of the league, but our nearest rivals still had a game to play. Stoke City still had a game to play, and that game coincided with the final again of the Liverpool Senior Cup, which was against Everton. And so you can imagine during this Liverpool Senior Cup final against Everton, the fans have got one eye on the pitch and one ear on the tannoy system to find out how Stoke had got on, to see whether we won the league. Liverpool were winning the game, and it was announced over the tannoy.
15 minutes before the end of the game.
Before the end of the game, that Liverpool were league champions.
How mad is that? That is absolutely insane.
So in one game, Liverpool beat Everton, won the Senior Cup and won the league title.
I mean, could you imagine? But the players, how did they stay focused?
Well, Billy Liddell. So I quote Billy Liddell in the piece. You know, Billy Liddell talks about how they could barely keep their eyes on the game, and they were like thinking about the fact that they were league titles. And then he describes the scenes of full time. And he's very understated actually, but you can just imagine the pandemonium inside the ground at full time.
Mate, what a day to be a Liverpool fan. Beat Everton, win the cup and win the league title all in one day. Well, listen, there's a few stories from Red Odyssey. As I say, it is absolutely fantastic. It's available for pre-order now on Amazon. You can see it here. It's called Red Odyssey, Liverpool FC 1892 to 2017. I really, really would recommend going and getting a copy of this on pre-order. It's absolutely superb. As I say, it took me about 3 days to read it. I just went through it like that. 125 of the best Liverpool stories from their history, told through the eyes of Jeff and through the eyes of players and ex-managers and stuff, and it really is sensational. So please do go and help and support fellow Red Jeff Goulden and purchase his book. So, Tom, let's have some comments, mate.
So, talking about the Anfield expansion, Mark Redmen says the only worry of this ground expansion is the romance of the Kop could be killed off.
It is a worry. It's a worry that you certainly probably share, and I think all Liverpool fans would. But there's something special about the Kop. Mark, was it? Mark Redmen, I think
Mark
you
Redmen.
said, yeah. There is something special about the Kop, and the fact that it's that one tier makes a massive difference, and ultimately it's where the singers are. So although there might be more fans in the other end, I don't think it's going to have the same level of passion as the Kop.
No, I agree. And I remember being at the game against Leicester when they opened the main stand. And what a fantastic spectacle the main stand is, but the noise was still coming from the Kop. The Kop still lead the way in terms of creating the chance and creating the romance. So I don't think it'll be dwarfed in that sense. But, wouldn't it have been great to have, a 25,000 seater Kop, But no, it's not to be for now. And logistically expanding the Anfield Road end seems to be the obvious place to start, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Okay, we got any more comments, please, Tom?
This is on Jorginho. Rashid Dower says, need him. The midfield needs strengthening when you look at City.
I think that's right, isn't it? I think, it's funny how Manchester City have kind of changed the landscape of English football, certainly this season. Fernandinho was a box-to-box midfielder. He's now playing as that sort of deeper midfielder of three. They've managed to get two number 10s in De Bruyne and David Silva. And, for me, personally, I'd like a bit of a destroyer for 20 games a season in the mould of Mascherano or something like that. I think we're lacking that in our squad. I think Jorginho is certainly an upgrade on Jordan Henderson, and probably his fitness is a little bit better. But yeah, I think you're right. The midfield needs strengthening. I think, were there any other positions in the team you think need strengthening? Maybe centre-back or up forward or...
Yeah, centre-back seems to be the obvious one. If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, I'd have said keeper. But, I've got to be honest, I think Karius might have done himself a lot of favours in the last few games. Whether Klopp sees it that way, I don't know. But centre-back, yeah. I worry about the full-back positions as well.
Really?
Well, not because the players we've got in full-back are a problem, but it's injuries to Robertson, injuries to Trent. I mean, we've got Gomez there, but see Gomez more as a centre-back in the future. So... there's going to be change in midfield, isn't there? So Chan looks like he's on his way out. I can't understand that one at all. Can't understand why he would want to leave Liverpool at this point. But it does look like he's going to go. Who knows what Klopp thinks about Henderson in long term. So yeah, I think midfield is somewhere. And I agree with you. I think we are missing someone who's a bit nasty in the middle of the park who's going to break it up.
Yeah. Okay, we got any more, Tom?
This one's on Emre Can. Mark Murphy says back injuries are usually major, could be a long-term problem.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp came out after the Watford game, didn't he, and said we didn't think it was too serious. Now, it's obviously flared up. You're exactly right, though. I mean, back injuries can be absolutely, major injuries. Let's just hope. I mean, I think Klopp and the medical team at Liverpool would have probably recognised if it was a major injury, so let's fingers crossed, because we'll need him between now and the run-in. He's been in sensational form this season. He's played consistently well in whatever position's asked of him, be that the 6, be that the 8. He, for me, has been better than Henderson this season in the 6. I've been really impressed with him, and you know what? This is the first season, really, where Chan's had a serious run of games in the same position. He's been booted at centre-back, right-back, defensive midfielder, 8. He's played so many.
He has, yeah.
It'd be a shame to see him go, but I think we are planning, and you can see by the players that we're linked with, the Ndidis, the Jorginhos, that we are planning for losing him. And hopefully it's not to somebody in England, which is what I think is on the cards personally.
Well, I know they say he's been quoted out of context, but the mention of a really big club and rumours of Guardiola.
Is that one? And then the Guardiola article came out the day before, didn't it, when he spoke about it?
You do worry, don't you? I mean, if he went to Madrid or Juventus or someone like that, you could probably live with it. But if he went to City and did well at City, that would be gut-wrenching, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because we haven't got the 50 million that we probably should have got for it. Joel George says, I think Gomez will switch to centre-back next season. Something that you'd agree with, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's where his future is. I think that's where he kind of saw himself playing when he joined Liverpool, wasn't he? He's done a decent job in the full-back slots, but I think long-term. In fact, the people I sit next to at the game, would rather see him playing centre-back next to Van Dijk than Matip or Lovren.
My only concern with Gomez, and it's only a small concern, he doesn't seem to He doesn't seem to judge the flight of balls very well. I mean, I've seen it a couple of times where he's just completely misjudged the flight of a ball.
Yeah, I mean, he was sort of implicated in a couple of, bad results, wasn't he? He's a young lad, isn't he? Learning his game. He looks like he's got everything he needs to make it in that position for me. Yeah.
Cool, okay. Someone who's just commented, AJ Wasp, really great show on Sporf, which is obviously, I did a show called My Club on Sporf, so go over there and check that one out. That one came out yesterday, just me talking about Liverpool, some of my favourite players, and then there's a little quiz at the end, which I do all right in, but I'm not top of the leaderboard, so I was a little bit fuming. But go over and check that one out. Listen, thank you everybody for joining me. Tom, how many people are watching live?
722 on YouTube, about 95 on Facebook, and I'm not sure on Twitter.
Wow, okay, so we've probably got about 1,000 people watching live. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this. Don't forget to go over and pre-order your copy of Red Odyssey. We'll be doing a competition as well. Stay tuned to our social channels on Twitter and on Facebook for details of that. Jeff, before we go, can I have you sign your book, mate?
Yep.
Go on, that looks like a good page, doesn't it? Red Odyssey. And why did you pick the title, actually?
Well, I think our history is a journey, really. It's a journey that's full of kind of heroes and villains, homecomings, victories, defeats. It's like any epic journey, and another word for journey is Odyssey. So I thought that was a perfect title.
Cool. I'm just going to show you, just so you know, 100% certified. Jeff Golding, Red Odyssey, the most boring signature I've ever seen.
I practiced that.
Really? That's great. Jeff, thanks very much for joining me again.
Mate.
It's been an
Thanks
absolute
very much.
pleasure. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the Redmen TV, and we'll see you next time on the Redmen TV.